Actually, before we sing, if we could all maybe move forward, I think it'd be nice if we all move, maybe starting the second bench and fill in. It'd be nice for those that are speaking this evening. They can maybe see our faces better. All right, thank you for being amenable to that. Let's turn in the songbooks, the Christian hymnary, to number 159. 159, bringing our focus to Jesus. I have found a friend in Jesus. 159 in the Christian hymnary. I have found a friend in Jesus, he's everything to me. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. The lily of the valley, in him alone I see all I need to cleanse and make me fully whole. In sorrow he's my comfort, in trouble he's my stay. He tells me every care on him to roll. He's a lily of the valley, a bright and morning star. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. He all my griefs has taken, and all my sorrows borne. In temptation he's my strong and mighty tower. I am all for him forsaken, and all my idols torn from my heart, and now he keeps me by his power. Though all the world forsake me, and Satan tempt me sore, through Jesus I shall safely reach the goal. He's a lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. He will never, never leave me, nor yet forsake me here, while I live by faith and do his blessed will. A wall of fire about me, I've nothing now to fear. With his manna he my hungry soul shall fill. Then sweeping up to glory, to see his blessed face, where rivers of delight shall ever flow. Hallelujah. He's a lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. All right, that's the Jesus that we all serve, our friend. And we as his church, whether we're part of Palm Grove, Sunnyside, or any other denomination mentioned, or represented here, we are all serving Christ, and we are all following him. And my mind this evening went to, with Health Share, with the program that we're going to hear tonight, my mind went to, bearing each other's burdens. And Galatians 6 verse 2 says, "Bear ye one another's burdens, so fulfill the law of Christ." So we as Christians, we bear the burdens of our brotherhood, of those that we fellowship with, and helping lighten that load. And I think we'll hear some more about that tonight in the presentation. So without any further ado, Ernest Stolzfus, would you come to the platform, please? We'll have a word of prayer, and then we'll turn it over to you, Ernest. All right, let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for this evening. Thank you that we can come together and learn about a health share program. Father, I just pray that you would be in our midst and that you would have control of the service and that you would bless Ernest as he shares what he has tonight. Help us to be attentive and to listen well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. It's really good to be here with you all. I appreciated the relaxed atmosphere as we came here tonight. And Justin and I were talking about a little bit. This kind of feels like, the service starts at 7:30, but it's Southern time, We're from Virginia. I come from New York, where on a Sunday morning when church started at 9:30, the song leader was behind the podium at 9:30, And so it's just interesting how different, it's almost like we create little cultures here within our communities that, certain things are important, certain things are not. Well, about 5 years ago, I moved to Virginia, and I think I'm a little more of a Southerner than I was 5 years ago, because there again, our church starts at 10 o'clock, and sometimes it's 5 after, sometimes it's 10 after, and until we get going. So I just feel right at home with you all here tonight, and as we think about the friend that we have in Jesus, thank you for that song, we get to transmit that relationship to one another in the body of Christ. That's what we're called to do, isn't it? To represent Christ not only to the world out there, but to each other, to represent Jesus to each other, to our fellow believers. And so I think that fades right into the whole idea of health sharing. And that's why we're here tonight, because we are here to lighten each other's load and to bear each other's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So we're going to get right into it. Anabaptist Health Share has been going for about 10 years now, just a little over 10 years. And we are just feeling so blessed and privileged to be able to serve the Anabaptist community in this way. The Anabaptist community has been a pleasure to serve, and for me has just, the family has just gotten a lot bigger as I am serving at Anabaptist Health Share now, and just feel so blessed and privileged with that all these people have entrusted that part of their health journeys to us, that we can help in that way, and that the Lord has entrusted us with the care of people on that level. So I consider it a great privilege to be here with you this evening and to share what we have to offer. And many of you know pretty much what the program is about already. Is there anyone here who needs a guideline here, who just missed that on the way in? It might be good as a reference point throughout the presentation if you can just reference that. So if anyone needs one, just put your hand up. Justin would be happy to get that for you. But we're going to get started here. So the mission of AHS is to provide a pathway for the total health of members, spiritual, emotional, and physical. And I understand we're focused pretty much on negotiating bills during a health crisis or a medical event of some kind, but we want to be faithful also in handling those things in a way that people feel emotionally and spiritually supported with the work that we do. So appreciate your prayers in that as we try to do that. How many of you have come to realize that health billing practices and systems are not trying to make life easy for you? The pathway has become increasingly challenging. we find in the 10 years that we have been in existence as a health share ministry. Just our makeup, our physical makeup is complex, and when we encounter problems, we realize how complex we are, right? All of a sudden, the things that you don't think about every day become a problem and become a burden when you have a health problem. And so, complex medical needs, complex provider billings, regulatory issues. So there are states who, some states, a few states that actually mandate what hospitals are allowed to do with their bills, how much they're allowed to cater to self-pay patients, how much they're allowed to discount a bill, and so on. There are a few states that actually have regulations in place that limit hospitals in how they can discount bills for self-pay patients. AHS is a health care sharing ministry recognized by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We are a 501c3 public charity, a nonprofit corporation, and a qualified Obama exemption. It's actually Obamacare that brought AHS into existence. And I'm just going to share very, very briefly what that looked like. So Eldon Hostetler is our administrator, and at the time he was serving as the administrator of Mountain View Nursing Home in Aurora, Virginia. And as you all know, we have a number of voluntary service units where young people go and donate their time, and the money that would normally be paid to employees goes to missions. So the CNAs at Mountain View, Hillcrest Home, Faith Mission Home, and other places like that were suddenly confronted with President Obama at that time's mandate that they will no longer qualify as a 501c3 charitable organization, which meant that all the VSers were going to have to become employees. And that would have been pretty devastating to our VS units. And so the Mountain View Nursing Home Board asked Eldon and his son Tyler if they would see what can be done to find an exception for the VS units. And so they did that. And Eldon could tell you a lot of stories, a lot of answers to prayer that were miraculous, really, in how the government responded to their requests and to their, pushing back on, could we just find that exception? I don't know what all the ins and outs of that were, but I know that they worked really hard and were able to procure that exception from Obamacare for all the VS units. And in doing that, recognized that there's a great need for a health sharing ministry. And that's how Anabaptist Health Share was born. So that's who we are. That's our legal status with the government. AHS is a medical cost sharing program for churches, ministries, businesses, and individuals. AHS is not insurance. So why do we dedicate a whole slide to just that? Partly because that changes everything about how we approach bill management, bill negotiation, the image we want to portray to the health providers, the doctors, the hospitals especially. It becomes very important that our members understand that, so that we are portrayed in the right light as our members go to a hospital, so that we don't get portrayed as insurance and then get insurance bills, and then that complicates the whole billing process and negotiating process, and increases the time that it would take to negotiate a self-pay bill. And we're just going to be expounding on that more as we get into more of these slides. So why healthcare sharing? I like the word synergism. It says the simultaneous action of separate agencies which together have greater total effect than the sum of their individual effects. I'm not going to take a lot of time to expound on that, but I just like that word, and I think it reflects the power that we have when many people come together, especially with something like hospital bills, if you have one person over here with $100 against a $100,000 bill, it's not going to go very far. But if you have 1,000 people with $100 in their pocket for that bill, it's going to be okay, isn't it? So why healthcare sharing? We just need each other. We need to be able to share with one another in these times of crisis. It takes the fear out of medical bills. And one other good reason to have a health sharing ministry is to be able to turn your bills over to an experienced bill management team that does this all day, 5 days a week, so that you can get on with your life as soon as possible after a health event or a medical event of some kind is, I believe, a great blessing. So I'd like to introduce us to the team. Eldon Hostetler, our administrator and founder, and his son Tyler is an attorney that works pretty closely with Eldon in just the vision and ongoing casting vision for the program. Tim Zook is our accounting manager. Julian Peachy, accounting assistant. He's a brother to Justin, who met you at the back door here. Justin is our member services manager. Does a lot of different things, but his main focus is to make sure that our members are well taken care of and communicated with. So just really appreciate the way he has dug into the program and made that happen. Ladella Miller is our full-time secretary. Melody Bretez, our part-time secretary. Gina Peachy has joined us fairly recently, and she is doing all the member enrollments now. So when someone wants to join the HS program and wants to understand the program, she is the one that would be talking to those people, introducing the program and all that they need to know to get acquainted with the program. Friedrich Stolzfuss and Zachary Hostetler keep the team rolling when we have IT issues. They're right there to come alongside us and fix computer problems and whatever else can go wrong with technology. So here is this is AHS's patient advocate team. These are the people who manage the bills, work between the health providers and the members. Kendrick Stolzfuss is our billing team manager. Jackson Miller is our assistant billing manager. Yours truly is a patient advocate. Yamani Warren, Joanna Stolzfuss, Rosalind Hostetler, Naomi, and Elisa take care of the mothers that are having babies. And I want to tell you, the Anabaptist community is alive and well. So we have it is consistently the largest portion of our cases. I believe it's very close to half of our existing cases are maternity cases. So that's exciting. It's really, really exciting. We also have one new secretary that just joined us, Lisa Hostetler. She's not pictured here yet. That's it, right, Justin? It's all but Lisa pictured here. So we feel very blessed with the team that God has brought to serve our 11,000 members. If you look at your guidelines right inside the front cover, you'll see the 3 plans in detail here. So what I'm giving you here is kind of a condensed version of what you have on that front page, okay? So if you have questions, that's a very good reference point. It just kind of fills in the extra details for the plan. We offer 3 sharing plan levels: the catastrophic, standard, and complete plan. Just a brief overview on what each plan has to offer. The catastrophic plan is our basic sharing with the lowest monthly contribution of $50. There's a $5,000 ISA. Does everybody here know what an ISA is? No, I would expect that. So an ISA is what you would expect to, it's the same equivalent as the deductible with insurance, okay? So it's the individual shared amount. Again, we are not insurance. We are not allowed to use insurance lingo. We're not allowed to act like insurance. we are not allowed to be guarantors of payment. So we legally may not guarantee the payment of any bill to our members or to a hospital. That's our legal status as a 501c3 non-for-profit charitable organization. So, yeah, not sure how I got on that. Okay, $150,000 sharing limit per case. Maternity and pre-existing conditions are not shareable. So make sure you look at the details of that portion of the program before you decide on that plan. There are other exclusions in your guidelines that you would have to be aware of. So the $50 per month contribution per adult is if you are not Social Security exempt. We have the standard plan. That's our mid-level sharing plan. It's a $1,500 ISA per case. And again, the ISA is equivalent to a deductible. The ISA is what the member will pay on their case. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. $1,500 ISA, $500,000 sharing limit per case. Maternities are included. Pre-existing conditions, most pre-existing conditions can be shared after 12 months. There are some exclusions to that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. There's an end-of-life sharing with both the standard plan and the complete plan. And that simply means that if one of our, a family member of our members passes away, AHS will send a $3,000 end-of-life sharing check to the family. There's a $100 monthly contribution per adult, and again, that's the group rate, and if you are not Social Security exempt. The complete plan is our highest level of sharing, $500 ISA per case, no cap applied per shareable case, $135 monthly contribution per adult. Again, that's the group rate if you are not Social Security exempt. Any questions so far? We will have a Q&A at the end where you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions you want. But if you're afraid you'll forget the question, you're free to ask during the presentation as well. So we have a lot of members that are paying the group rate, and that means that they're part of a group that has 20 units or more. So the group rate requirement is for your group to have 20 units or more. There's a slightly, there is a slight advantage to having a group rate, and that is with a group that has 20 units or more. And to receive the group rate, AHS requires the group to make their monthly contribution with one check. Just saves our accounting department a lot of time and so on. So it means a lot to us to be able to do that. So pre-existing conditions, this is any conditions that would be part of your health journey before becoming part of the Anabaptist Health Share Program. Shareable pre-existing conditions are subject to a 12-month wait period before they can be shared and have these limits. So with a standard plan, there's a $10,000 cap per year per person, not per family, but per person, that can be shared on a pre-existing condition after a 1-year wait period after being in the program. With a complete plan, that cap is $15,000. Pre-existing exclusions. Organ failures are never shared, such as diabetes and pre-existing. So organ failures are not shareable even if they are not pre-existing. I'm correct on that, right, Justin? Yeah, organ transplants. I'm sorry, I said organ failures. Organ transplants are never shareable within the program, whether they're pre-existing or not. So diabetes is never shared as a pre-existing condition. Heart conditions, genetic disorders, cancers. There is a caveat on the cancer. pre-existing cancer is shareable after a cancer-free period of 10 years and having been a member of AHS a minimum of 2 years. Non-routine items that just need a little extra attention. So auto-related injuries, excuse me a minute. So why is there a $5,000 ISA on auto-related injuries? Probably most of you are aware that your auto insurance policy offers usually around a $5,000 stipend toward bodily injury that can be, gotten in an auto accident. And if you're not sure if your auto insurance policy has that or not, I would really encourage you to check that out. It doesn't cost that much more to add that to your auto insurance policy, and most auto insurance policies offer that. Maybe, not sure if they're required to or not, but most of them will cover the first $5,000 of bodily injury in an auto accident. So that's the $5,000 ISA for auto-related injuries. And I want to just add to that, it's not just automobile-related injuries, it's any motor vehicle-related injury, like tractor accidents, four-wheeler accidents, anything, any motorized vehicle comes with a $5,000 ISA for injuries sustained on that vehicle. The Workers' Aid Plan is an add-on, so that's also in your brochure, but I just want to be really clear that if you are injured on the clock while at your job, that injury, the medical bills are not shareable under the regular AHS program, like the standard plan or the complete plan, catastrophic plan. You need the Workers' Aid Plan added on in order to have job-related injuries on the clock shared. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Workers' Aid in a few slides forward here. Organ transplants are not shareable. Non-FDA approved alternative natural remedies are not shareable. Supplements, those kind of, and I think it's pretty important that we would like to update something in the guidelines sometime soon. I don't think it's worded super clear in there that if there is a say like a medical doctor working out of an alternative treatment facility, anything that is done in that facility is not shareable, even if it's done by a medical doctor or a nurse practitioner. Part of the reason for that is, we have more and more doctors that are actually, kind of doing some medical and some alternative. And for our team to have to sift through the bills and pick through, the pieces and parts of the bill that are shareable and are not is pretty time consuming and can be a little even confusing, like what actually is shareable and what isn't. So we have just drawn the line on facility. So if there's a doctor working out of a natural treatment facility or selling supplements, those supplements and that are coming out of that facility are not shareable. So the doctor's practice, what the doctor is doing in that facility, is also not shareable. Yes.
When you say alternative, what do you include in that? Chiropractor or not?
Yes, chiropractor is actually not eligible for sharing, right? There would be some exceptions to that, and that would be like if a doctor would recommend you go to a chiropractor for treatment or therapy after an accident, and the medical doctor is saying, you need some therapy. I think a chiropractor can serve you well. We do make exceptions for that at times, but as a whole, chiropractic is not shareable under the AHS program. We do make an exception for Lyme disease, simply because of the difficulty of diagnosing and treating Lymes. I don't know if anyone here has experience with that, but can be very, very complex to both diagnose and treat. And so we do contribute $4,000 per year, up to 3 years, for Lyme treatment, and that money can be spent at any type of facility, alternative, wellness centers, supplements, whatever. So yeah. Non-routine items, so Mexico. So we do not share for treatment in Mexico unless it is cancer, and then it is capped under the standard plan with a $20,000 cap, and under the complete plan with a $30,000 cap. And say a member would decide to go to Mexico for treatment and spend $15,000 there that we would share for, and then things aren't going so well, they decide to come back home and get an oncologist in the United States, then that treatment would have to reach $15,000 before AHS would resume sharing. So the $15,000 spent in Mexico would go against the oncology treatment. Mental illness is reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Harmful life choices, illnesses, accidents, or cases that result from alcohol, tobacco, illegal drugs, abuse of legal drugs, and intimate relationships outside of marriages are not shareable. So the 7 pillars are actually in your guidelines as well. And these 7 points are maybe some of the more important things to remember if you have a case. Like if you have a medical event or injury or something. The 7 pillars of sharing are designed to just simply smooth the track for your interaction with AHS as we try to negotiate and manage the bills that come our way. So this is these 7 points are just simply to help make that journey while the bills are being negotiated as smooth as possible. So what do we mean by pre-authorization? Pre-authorization is required for all appointments that exceed the ISA amount. Pre-authorization is so if you have something that you know is going to need medical attention, let's just say a knee replacement. It's something that you can schedule out ahead and plan for. Please let AHS know as soon as possible when you know that is going to happen. And that would usually look like, I have knee pain, okay. Let us know you have that knee pain and that you're planning to see a doctor, have a consultation and see what is needed. And then we can open a case, and at the consultation you would be expected to find out, of course, what needs to happen next. And also we would require an estimate at that point for the procedure, which any health provider should be able to do that for an elective procedure like that. And that gives us a lot of options. So after you have the consultation, you get the estimate to us, and we see that, this hospital wants $40,000 for a knee replacement. And that's reality. I mean, that's what some say. And that's a discounted price, $40,000 for a knee replacement. We're going to say, well, we know of a better option. We know of a very good facility that can do that very same procedure for a fraction of the cost, probably half of that cost. And then we will find that procedure or find that facility and match that procedure with a CPT code to find you a more affordable solution. So, pre-authorization is, I know sometimes that can be a sacrifice. It can feel like a sacrifice to give up the doctor you're familiar with to go with something more affordable. We try hard to find facilities that do a really good job, that have a good reputation, and to match with those facilities. But pre-authorization, I'll just tell you a story, something that happened it was probably about a year ago. A young man called and said that he had a toe injury. I forget what happened, but he said he's already been to the hospital, scheduled a surgery, and the surgery is going to cost $18,000 on his big toe. And that's the discounted price. He already had it scheduled. It was coming right up, like within a couple weeks, I think. And I said, well, that should have been pre-authorized. Like, we like to know ahead of time so we can get on this a little sooner without holding things up. But I said, we're really going to have to reroute that because something doesn't sound quite right about, the injury versus the cost to fix that. And he was a little bit adamant. He said, well, me and my friends have a hiking trip coming up in 6 weeks, and I need to get this done now so I can heal up and be all good for the hiking trip. I'm like, well, I understand that. But I said $18,000 really is too much for that procedure. And you're going to have to give me a few days to research, see where we can find a more affordable solution. And I said, in the meantime, could you just go to a different doctor and get a second opinion? It's a second opinion. It doesn't cost you that much, and it can just make a world of difference what one doctor thinks versus another. So I asked him to get a second opinion. He went to his family doctor for the first time. He had gone straight to the hospital with his injured toe, and it was injured. It was out of place. And so he went to his family doctor. His family doctor, in the doctor's office, set his toe, splinted it, and said, you don't need surgery. Forget it. So that means $18,000 that would have been spent if that procedure wouldn't have been pre-authorized is now within the program to help with other costs. Do you understand how this works? It's just pre-authorization has become a really important part of bill management for us and for our members to understand the importance of that. And we really, really appreciate the way people have responded to that and just letting us know what's going on so we can get ahead of the game rather than behind. Emergencies. Obviously, we don't expect you to pre-authorize for emergencies. I had a fellow call me that had heard about this pre-authorization, that you got to pre-authorize to have, a medical event shared, and he literally got his finger in a bandsaw and ripped his whole pointer finger out of his hand and part of his other finger, and called me up, and he was just like, I'm going to the emergency room. I said, okay, you go do what you need to do. That's perfectly fine. We'll talk about this later. So, but yeah, urgent care is often just a really good option to ER. Obviously, if you walk through the doors at an ER, it's probably $600 just to get you in. My son had a finger injury. He was on the job working for a construction crew, and he was on a man lift cutting a 2x4, and it was about the last thing he was doing in the day, kind of, hurrying up, getting done, throwing pieces up to someone that was on the roof, and got the wrong angle on that 2x4 and took about 1/8 of an inch of his pointer finger off. And blood flying everywhere, and pain, and we got to get to the ER. And fortunately, his boss had the presence of mind as they were going to the ER, and my son was throwing up and fainting on the way. It was just, a lot of pain. He said, he thinks there's an urgent care on the way to the hospital. Stopped in there, and there's this amazing guy who used to be like one of the top surgeons in the hospital, was running this urgent care. And he took him in and sewed that finger up just as good as you could possibly get it sewed up, and wrapped it up and kind of reconstructed the end of his finger. He came back in for a checkup once or twice, got the stitches removed, and maybe even went back a third time, I'm not quite sure, all for $600. So that's urgent care versus ER. But obviously, if you don't get it exactly right with an emergency, we understand. Self-pay is the way to report to a hospital. Some of our members feel a bit conscientious about saying they're self-pay because they've got Anabaptist Health Share paying their bills. And again, I'm going to go back to we are not insurance. And what our legal status does for you as a member, it makes it perfectly honest for you to say you are a self-pay patient. We are just helping self-pay patients manage their bills. That's our job. And that is what we can do as a 501c3 charitable non-for-profit organization. We are not allowed to call ourselves insurance. We're not allowed to act like insurance. We're not allowed to use insurance lingo. We're not even allowed to guarantee that we will pay your bill because we're not insurance. So that makes you a self-pay patient. Another thing that makes you a self-pay patient is that bill never stops being your bill. That bill never becomes the responsibility of Anabaptist Health Share. It's always your bill. We are here to manage your bills. So that puts in a little different light, doesn't it? Like, it's not like, oh, I have a hospital bill here, that's your bill now. No, that's not who we are. We're not allowed to give that impression even. So the bill is always the member's bill. We are just here to help negotiate your bills. Unpaid is how to submit bills. We like the bills unpaid because we have a bucket full of tools. And we might approach the resolution of that account or that bill a number of different ways. And so if we get the bill unpaid, we can decide which tool will work the best on that bill. So that's why we like the bill unpaid, just so that we can go to work on it when we get it. And there's no misunderstandings with the hospital. We try to keep your communication with the hospital as minimal as possible. There are exceptions to that at times, but we still want the bill unpaid. I would say the exceptions to getting the member involved with a hospital would involve times like that there are certain health facilities that will not understand who we are as a health sharing ministry. They will just they will tag the bills as insurance no matter what you say. But those are relatively rare instances. So either way, we want the bill unpaid, and we'll work through how that needs to happen with the hospital from that point forward. Any questions? Yes. Yes. So we can work with that. We can either call in ahead of time and pay for the procedure, or if you go to the ER and they need payment right then and there, which usually doesn't happen in an ER. We do understand that there are some like $300-400 bills that they might say, well, we need payment today to go ahead with this appointment or with this procedure. And our rule of thumb is that if what you pay out of pocket is less than your ISA, that's always okay. And there are, various other minor exceptions to that rule. But as a rule, unpaid is how we want the bill. So stewardship of resources requires that bills are not paid above what is required by hospitals. above what is required. Finding out what is required is actually the challenge many times. But stewardship, I believe, is a big part of what we do, using the contribution funds that come into AHS on a monthly basis from our members in a way that is wise, in a way that is helpful to run a sustainable and program that is affordable. Again, pre-authorization comes into the picture there. Pretty much that helps us do that, helps us cut costs quite a bit. Here's some of the challenges that we come into at times. A few months ago, I got a call from a member that there was a young man needed a hernia surgery. And so he went to the hospital, had a consultation, and scheduled, and then called us and said, oh, the discounted price is $32,000 for the hernia surgery. I forget what the raw charges were without the discount, but it was tens of thousands more than that. And but $32,000 was the discounted price for a hernia surgery. And I just knew right away that wasn't right. I said, well, we're going to have to reroute because that's just not the right price. And we were able to find a facility that gave that young man his hernia surgery between $6,000 and $8,000. And we know that we can do that routinely at certain facilities. So, stewardship. Is it good stewardship to give a hospital $30,000 for a $6,000 procedure? Probably not. So, it just helps so much when our members understand those dynamics within the medical world. And I think you understand that it takes patience sometimes as you wait for that bill to be resolved. It can take a while sometimes. And our goal is to not to buck the hospital system. It's not we always want to portray professionalism and politeness and common courtesy as we're working with facilities that are difficult to work with. So our goal is always to find the path forward that the hospital provides for that bill resolution, which can involve Medicaid, financial assistance. There's a company that has hundreds of contracts all over the nation for elective procedures that can be scheduled out ahead, and they have package prices that vary at hundreds of facilities. And so we can at times, when we redirect a member to a more affordable facility, get Savos, the name of the company, to research what the options are close to you, and often find a much more affordable solution that way. Genuine spirit of sharing is a beautiful way to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So if we all use the program the way we wish everyone else would use it, that really makes it work well. Patience is needed when dealing with the medical system. It takes a while sometimes to find that bottom line. Any questions so far? All right, Medicare, yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just curious, when you negotiate, do I understand correctly that you negotiate with the hospitals on behalf of the bills of your members?
Yes.
Right. How do you get past the HIPAA things, the privacy things, where if you're not directly related to it,
Yes.
people are obviously self-pay,
Mm-hmm.
so how do you work
Yeah.
through that obstacle?
Yes. Each of our patient advocates has a form with their name on it and a place for our member to sign at the bottom. And the form just describes, giving the hospital full permission to do anything and everything with the medical billing and health information needed to resolve the bills. So we will send that out to the member at the beginning the beginning of a case, have them sign it, and send it back to us without filling the hospital information out so that we can use that signature in multiple different facilities if there's more than one involved. So that's how that works. Sometimes a hospital will insist on the member calling in, so then we do it that way, or being on a team call. So, there are a couple different ways to do that. But yeah, we work with that all the time. Good question. Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? So Medicare members 65 years and older supplement program. So Medicare A and B is required if you are eligible for it. So if you are not Social Security exempt, AHS's expectation is that you would sign up for Medicare A and B before you turn 65. And then some of you might be familiar with the co-pays that are left after Medicare pays, maybe 80% of the bill. There's a co-pay that's left. You are then free to turn that into Anabaptist Health Share, and the ISA would apply to that portion that you turn in. So we would have you pay whatever your plan ISA is first. And in order to have AHSB, your supplemental program to Medicare, the standard plan would require a $50 per month. Your monthly contribution would go from the standard plan rate to now $50 per month for the standard plan, or $75 per month for the complete plan, since you are paying monthly for the Medicare plan. Pharmaceuticals are shared if the member is also enrolled in Medicare Part D. Social Security exemptions. So AHS does accept Social Security exempt persons. The monthly contribution is $25 per adult above the regular contribution rate. Non-Medicare 65 and older. So Social Security exempt people who are 65 and older obviously don't qualify for Medicare. Regular Social Security exempt rate applies. And then in addition, for those who are 65 and older, in addition to the plan ISA for each case, there would be a 75-25 sharing after the ISA is met. So would simply mean that after the bills are all managed and paid, then whatever portion is left after the ISA is taken off of that, the member would be responsible for 25% of the rest of that case. Non-Medicare persons age 60 and older need to join with a group of 20 units or more. And then we have the workers' aid plan details here. So it shares job-related injuries while on the clock. There's a $50 enrollment fee per worker or employee. There's a $22 per month contribution required, and a $2,000 per incident ISA. Now that ISA goes to $5,000 if that on-the-clock, at-the-job injury happens on a motorized vehicle. And that would include tow motors, skid loaders, tractors, four-wheelers, whatever, any motorized vehicle. Time off work is reimbursed at a 2/3 normal compensation rate for up to 2 months. Any questions so far? Justin, I think would you have a few things to add at this point, or some things that you think need a little bit of, any questions in the meantime?
So did I hear you right that someone who's on Medicare will only pay $50 or $75 a month? Or
To Anabaptist Health Share, yes. Yes. Understanding that you are paying Medicare on a monthly basis for your plans A and B there, and that is taking care of I know the percentages vary based on whether it's a hospital bill or a physician bill or whatever, but a large portion of the bill.
Being a group of 20 do that to qualify, or can you do, does that qualify as an individual?
Yes. You qualify as an individual to be on Medicare and to have that lower rate if you are on Medicare. Absolutely. Whether you're in a group or not. Any other questions? So how many members does AHS have? Some people have asked the question, so is there enough money there for catastrophic cases? Do you have, is it sustainable? Is it solvent? And I just want to say that God has been very, very good to Anabaptist Health Share. I feel very blessed to be employed in a program that has, I think, an exceptional amount of forethought and wisdom put into it by especially Eldon and Tyler in the very inception of the health share. And we also have a strategic team that is constantly monitoring, looking over where the funds are and how things are working out. And God has been very good to us. And I say that to His glory. It's just a real privilege to be able to serve our Anabaptist community in that way. In the 10 years that AHS has existed, we have never increased the monthly contribution rate. That has never happened yet. Now that is not a promise, of course, that won't happen. In fact, it's very likely that it will happen, and maybe even soon. We're talking about that and giving that some careful thought. But it's very likely that will happen at some point. Inflation, for instance, one of our transparent pricing hospitals that gives us a booklet every year describing what their elective procedure prices are. And, you can get this done at this facility for this price. Relatively few hospitals do that, but in that facility, they're in a pretty large plain community, and we use their pricing as kind of a benchmark as to what the right price is for certain procedures. But this year, they have come out with quite a bit of new pricing. So a lot of the elective procedures have increased a bit, some quite a bit, and some, moderate amounts of increase. So we would love to keep our rates where they are as long as we can, but inflation does seem to be, hospitals are feeling it. Any other questions? Justin, did you have anything to add? Oh, okay. Well, we can interact as long as you want to after our meeting here. We'd be happy to, engage one-on-one and any questions that you have. Yes?
How does that work as far as, I'm on with CHM, so
Okay.
can you put one on one plan and another one, can you split, or is it the whole family?
No, the family is on one plan. Yes. Now, after that child turns 18, they can have their own plan. They can have a different plan than the rest of the family because they're going to be paying their own rate at that point.
How do you, so if we come to you with a procedure we need done, but you're like, well, that's too expensive, how do you go about verifying the cheaper one is quality? If you don't know the area?
Yes. That's a good question. It's a very good question, and I don't blame anyone for asking that. So Savos is a company that we've come across in the last, 5 years, maybe 5 years ago?
About 3.
Barely that, 3 years, yeah. And we were just delighted that there is this company in Utah that is actually has hundreds of contracts all over the country with different facilities and providers for all kinds of elective procedures. And what we do is get our members to give a CPT code for the procedure that they are needing, and then we share that with Savos. They match that procedure to another provider, and they give the apples for apples price. And we have paid a lot of elective procedures at half price or less. It's been a very good addition to our program. And I know that can be a little unsettling, and of course, we try to be sensitive to the dynamics in a person's life at that point. If it's a terminal illness, we're not going to redirect a person and say, you got to do this and you got to do that, But elective procedures that aren't emergencies that, we can wait for, we can have a little time to decide what is a better, more affordable solution.
Would that apply to maternity at all?
Maternity is kind of a different track in that you can, it would apply. Like if a hospital is going to give you a package price of, that's just way too much, and you don't qualify for Medicaid or for financial assistance at that hospital, we're probably going to say, well, maybe we could think about a different facility or a different doctor or something like that. But maternity is kind of a track of its own. You got something to say to that?
The maternity is a track of its own a little bit, and we try to be very sensitive to that. I'm not sure if we've ever, it might have been once that we've redirected, but we understand that for the ladies, it's very sensitive with the doctors that they're familiar with and wanting to engage with there. So we try to be very sensitive to that. Like I said, it may have been once or so that happened. But that is not typical. The other thing, and he mentioned a little bit of that, redirecting is a tool. It's not necessarily the go-to tool.
Yes.
A lot of facilities have paths for a self-pay patient to navigate. We help them navigate those, and based on family size, income, many different dynamics, whether you're qualifying for pre-authorization, we can look at that ahead of time and get a really good handle on, are they going to qualify for Medicaid? Would they qualify for the hospital's financial assistance program? And at times, we'll go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead. I think we see a path forward in negotiating these bills for you, and no redirection has to happen.
Thank you, Justin. Yes. It's something we don't do unless we feel like it's poor stewardship not to. And that it happens fairly often. Like I said, some of the examples I gave of hospitals that will charge just unreasonable amounts for certain procedures, it just is not justifiable at any level to pay that kind of money for certain procedures. So, yes.
I've been in SMAC ministries for many years.
Okay.
As you probably know, we send money to various people. In your case, the money would all be sent to you.
The bills all come to us. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the monthly contribution rates, yes.
Do you have any kind of automated payment kind of thing set up?
Yes. Yes. Our accountants have automatic payments set up. You can register a credit card with our accountant and have your credit card pay it, or an ACH payment or some. Hey, do we do ACH?
Yeah, we do bank accounts you can set up, debit cards, credit cards. Now, if your church is set up as a group, and some of the churches prior to this had been set up as an individual payer group, and we have left that and sort of grandfathered that in. But typically for new church groups coming in, we do ask for that one check. And so you would pay your treasurer or your liaison person, however the church sets that up, and then we get one check. It's a little less for the accountants. It also saves us that 3% processing fee on the cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So if you have surgery or whatever, you reroute it? Is it in the area or?
We try to do that. So with Savos, like I said, they have contracts all over the nation. It can involve maybe going 2 hours for a procedure versus your local hospital that's 20 minutes away. And we kind of work with the individual on that. And again, it depends a bit on, you know, what kind of case it is. We do try to be sensitive to difficult cases that, you know, that's just an extra burden to add on to an already difficult situation. But yeah, it's sacrifices like that our members make that benefits the whole group. You know, it benefits us in keeping the monthly contribution rates as low as we can, as long as we can, and yeah, it just helps the program be sustainable for everyone. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. So we try to keep it, we try to get Savos to come in as local as they can, and many times we can, you know, within 2 hours. And then there's some people that say, hey, I'll go anywhere, just let me know, you know, I'm getting this done, and I'd like to save the program money, and had a few like that. They're just willing to travel across the country, and we do, depending on how much money the sacrifice saves the program, we will help with travel costs at times. Yes.
Do you have any experience in working with the Sarasota hospitals that you had
Yes.
this year?
Yes. Yes, and Sarasota has been a bit interesting. They have a good financial assistance program, and of course, if a member qualifies for Medicaid, that takes care of everything. Sarasota Memorial does not like what we're doing, and so they don't like health shares, or they will just treat us like insurance, or in other words, they might give you a 50% discount, but if you've got Anabaptist health share, that might diminish to 10 or 20%. Because you've got somebody behind you. So many times when there's somebody at Sarasota, especially if it's a large bill, we will make the interaction between the member and Sarasota. So we will channel, you know, any financial assistance applications, Medicaid applications through the member, so that we're out of the picture. But we can, you know, we're right there to coach through the process. But yeah, Sarasota is a little interesting.
And again, that is due to the fact that they don't understand how we are. Some health shares operate very much like insurance. We would not. We would operate more as a patient advocate. You always remain responsible for your bills, and we come alongside of you and help you through that process.
Yeah, yeah. Great hospital. You probably know that. That's where people like to go to. The medical profession that we have in our country is second to none, and I appreciate them so much, but the billing processes are not your friend. Yeah. You had a question?
I don't know how many of us are thinking it or whatever. Are you taking on individuals or do we have to be?
That's a Justin
Yeah,
question.
so currently we have a limited open enrollment. For if you are not Social Security exempt and would like to join, you can simply go to the website. It's www.sharing.health. You click on apply now, you put in an application, that gets sent in to us, and we can go through the enrollment process. Right now, we're at about a 30-day wait period. We process them on a first come, first serve basis, and get those processed for you. And so an individual can, you know, if the church doesn't have the units, he had talked about 20 units earlier. A family, like a husband, wife, and children, would be considered 3 units. The children is 1, the husband is 1, the wife is 1.
So the 20 units is for, if you are Social Security exempt, you must come on with a group of 20 units. And, okay, so we're not taking on individuals right now. I don't want to misrepresent that. We're actually not taking on Social Security exempt individuals at this point.
That are not a part of a group.
Right.
If they're part of a group, we bring them on. We like to keep our groups, and this is something we've been trying to be thoughtful about. We'd really like to keep the groups at about an 80-20 ratio of exempt to non-exempt. It just, in the process of the bills and looking at what creates a healthy program, we just want to be very thoughtful about how many we are bringing in, you know, because at 65, when you're not on Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare A and B, you know, sometimes those are when you experience some of your larger health events and things.
Mm-hmm. Great questions. Yes.
Question, under the pre-existing conditions, is someone who is diabetic eligible, coming to you a diagnosed diabetic, is that eligible for coverage or?
No.
Okay. What about pre-diabetes? There's a significant portion of our population that doesn't know they are, but
Yeah.
they are. And so what do you do with that?
Yeah, so a person that has diabetes can join the program. It does not keep them from joining. We just would not share towards that condition, the diabetic condition. Pre-diabetes would fall under the pre-existing condition, just a general pre-existing condition. We would hope that that would get their attention and they would make some lifestyle changes if possible that would keep them from becoming diabetic. But it would be shared if someone's pre-diabetic and it turns into diabetes. We do share that in the program then.
And for the pre-existing conditions, we always help our members manage bills, whether it's a shareable case or not, whether the bills for that medical event or case are eligible for sharing or not. We will help negotiate the bills. We can apply for Medicaid, we can apply for financial assistance, we can go to the hospital and try to negotiate the bill, write offer letters, whatever. So we are there to help you through that event, even if it is a pre-existing condition. All right, well, I don't want to keep you here longer than we need to, but we're here if you want to talk afterwards, and I'm going to turn the time over to Bill.
Thank you, Ernie, for your information. I gathered from the way some of the questions were asked that some are not a part of it, some of us are. And so we are actually connected with Anabaptist Health Share, and we have appreciated it, and they are very easy to work with. They care. There was a situation in this area with that pre-authorization that should have been handled better here, but they worked with us, and so just they are very workable people, and so I could vouch for them from that aspect. It's a workout, and what is nice in this way is that them having the time, the ability, and take the energy that is really needed to minimize those costs and then be able to take care of it and helping each other in that way. So I guess you all will be in the back and available for answer questions. Let's stand. And again, JR and crew, thank you for making this available here. Our PowerPoint system isn't where it needs to be at this point, but we'll get there eventually. So this worked out well for us. Thank you. Let's have a God Be With You song for our dismissal. God be with you till we meet again. By his counsels uphold you, with his sheep secure
Jesus.